Hello and welcome back to Age of History 2. Today we're back as Benin. Last time we left off we had to take out the country of Mamluks, which is the last great African power except for myself. In this video, my main goal is to control all of Africa with no more, at least non-vassalized countries left. So let's get into it. The first thing I did was I got a message from the Knights. That's just their name, I don't know why. And it asked me to take up a fight against Aragon. And I had thoughts about this since I went to war with them last time. No, against them, I'm sorry. So I went in. It was a fast war. I went up through the south and moved all the way up. I went off to the coast because there were 3 islands. And I'm lazy and I don't really want to know what their names are because when am I going to need to know that? Then seeing that this country was bigger than I thought, I moved to Corsica and Sardinia. I actually know the names of those islands. Thank you, oversimplified. During this, I got declared on war by Narveri? But they had one province. You would think, oh, that's an easy win. But they had like 10,000 troops hidden away in all the cupboards. Fun. They took most of my northern territories in the Iberian Peninsula. But I moved some of my troops from Sardinia and I grabbed the territory that belonged to me. And I just did a peace treaty just to end the war so I could focus on Aragon. I went to the negotiating table with Aragon and just decided to vassalize them. So I would have a power in Europe to help me when the time came to move up north. With that done, I decided that Mamluks had to go. So after, I recruited a bunch of troops from my most western provinces. I then moved my troops to my 2 borders with Mamluks, one in the south, one in the north. Once my troops were positioned, I scattered them across the border so I could force them in all fronts available to me. I declared war on Mamluks. The northern front was going easier, which is why I find it dumb from hindsight that I put more troops up there. In the south, I moved troops to every province that I could, but didn't go as fast. I didn't notice that Mamluks had vassals, so some of those invaded me in places that I did not have troops to defend. I recruited troops along the border with one of the vassals to stop them from gaining any more territory. I tried to gain all the territory that I had lost in the opening of the war, but it did not go great. I did make some gains in the north, though. I did make gains against the vassals with troops, so I had recruited, and I found like 7,000 troops just sitting around playing cards. I completely cut off the southern part of the country from the northern, but it was still really slow going. I took most of the vassals and kept moving up into the north. I knocked out the vassal, but the center provinces are not in my control. So the main thing I did in this turn was that I moved many troops into the sea so that I could attack Cairo and the surrounding area from the behind to split the forces in that front. Moving up into the north to cut off troops and moving in from the east at the same time. The central part that I didn't control was another thing I needed to take, but we would worry about that later. Ethiopia, after getting conquered by Mamluks, gained a lot of control of their territory back during the war, so I did have to work around those to attack Mamluks. I moved the troops from the sea into the area around Cairo. The main thing I wanted to do here was split the African and Asian troops apart, I also made advancements in the center. I took many provinces in the center to stop the fighting there so I could focus more on the other front. I also completely cut off the African and the Asian parts of Mamluk. I connected my southern and my western front. The eastern parts were under-equipped, so the eastern parts of Mamluks were very under-equipped, so that wasn't really an issue. I could get away with like 120 troops to do so. I took the provinces around the pyramids and the Nile River. The center was finally under my complete control, and the east was remaining, it was just getting steamrolled. It was not an issue. At this point, it was just clean up and holding the border with Asia to stop a breakthrough, so I kept just moving up to keep forcing the front lines back so they could amass troops. I took parts of the Saudi Arabian Peninsula, but I did not actually want to hold these. After a couple more turns, I went to the negotiating table and took most of Mamluk's territory in Africa. Most of the stuff that's left we'll take care of later, but the main thing I wanted to do was have those 2 provinces to stop the breakthrough of the front. I spent a lot of time just assimilating provinces so they wouldn't rebel against me. I put many troops along the border with Mamluks' Asian territory so I wouldn't get surprise invaded again. I colonized some of the territories in the center of the continent to help with production of money so I can afford more war. Whilst I was assimilating provinces in the country of Makuria declared war on me. The main problem was that I had most of my troops up in the north because they were defending the border. I recruited some troops along the Nile and the border territories, but I did bring the troops down from the border, and that ended the war quickly. With the other big power out of Africa, I decided to start cleaning up the countries that were left. I went after Timbuktu, and being only one province, it was easy. The peace treaty with Mamluks ended on this turn, so I went up to clean up the last of their territories that they had in Africa, so I wouldn't have to worry about it later. With it only having 1 by 1 provinces left in Africa, it really didn't take much effort to clean it up. I took all of the African territories, and they seemed to be fine with that, and this would be the last time I'd have to fight with Mamluks for this time. With the end of the war, I went back to cleaning up Africa, so I declared war on Maravi and Sofala. The war with Alada went very good. It was very quick and easy. The Maravi one did not go good because I didn't have enough troops for it. I claimed all the territory for the southern country, but the other one I had to go with a neutral peace treaty, so I would return to it later. Again, while assimilating territories, I got a random declaration of war from a small country called Adel. But it was only one province country, so I kind of just steamrolled it. While I was getting ready for the war with the country that controlled the top of the African coast, I got 3 declarations of war from Castile, Burundi, and Iberia. This immediately changed my plans for the future, and I decided to focus on Castile first since they're the most powerful and closest to my troops. I moved the army that was guarding the eastern territories down to Iberia. I don't know. I met up with a group of 7,000 troops. I knew that the war would not end with these amount of troops, but I did get a peace treaty out of it, and while doing all of this, Venice declared war on me as well. In the north, I gathered an army of about 75,000 troops to invade Castile. I invaded through Gibraltar to only have one front to fight in. After moving up through the country, I called on my ally and vassal, Aragon, so that they would help me and get some territory during the war. The biggest goal was to get the southern part of the Iberian Peninsula so I could have a foothold in Europe, and to give territory to my vassal. During all of this, the country of Macau declared war on me as well, but since I did not have a connecting province, I just went to the peace talks. Moving on, me and Aragon pushed Castile out of the Iberian Peninsula, and I was mostly just going to let Aragon take the rest of the north. After attempts at peace talks, Aragon rejected the terms, and I just wanted to sit it out, but I decided just to help out. The rest of the war was taking the rest of the territories. And once it was all done, Aragon and me carved up Castile, I took most of the south and Sicily, and Aragon took the northern parts and into the rest of Europe. The only war that was left was with Venice. I didn't know whether I wanted to conquer it or just do a peace treaty, so I moved some troops into the Italian peninsula, but most of them were decimated, so I just peace talked my way out of it. I had my first rebellion now, and it was in Sicily, and it was only one province, so I just recruited local troops and conquered it. While I was trying to invade the same country that I was trying to last time, Aragon picked a fight with Hungary, so I had to prevent that from getting decimated. I pulled some troops from the last war and some that I pulled for the one that I was trying to prepare for. I had over 100,000 men, but if you pay close attention, you will see that through a glitch, I lost most of them. This happens mostly during wars involving your vassals. At this point, I was mostly looking at cleaning up Africa, so I tried to hold the line so that Aragon could finish up the war. After much back and forth, I gave a lot of money to Aragon. I just let them do whatever they wanted to for however long they wanted to. I was done. I then decided to finally take care of the country that bordered the sea with an army of about 100,000. I moved my troops around the country and moved about 50,000 to the sea to take them from behind. Once the war started, I moved my army from the sea right into the heart of the country and used the forces on the border and just kind of pushed them through the whole country. This wasn't a really difficult war since I had 100,000 troops. I took the whole country and turned my attention towards the south of the continent. I finally got Hungary and Aragon to come to a peace treaty, so that's one less thing I really had to worry about. Cleaning up Africa was the last thing I wanted to do, so I turned my attention towards Medina. Being rather small was an easy war that didn't take very long. Now I want to take out the last larger country in Africa, which was Abyssinia, or Ethiopia, whatever one you want to call it. They're both interchangeable. I moved all the soldiers that I collected around the country of Ethiopia. I declared war on Abyssinia. I'm going to use both. I took the one province that had just disconnected with Barbados and just turn by turn took the country. I took all the provinces just because I'm trying to have the whole continent vassalizations here. Now this game seems to be like the Musketeers type stuff, because this time I got declared war on by Iberian again, Burundi, and Maravi. I abandoned the provinces around Maravi so I couldn't get attacked there because I had no troops. I decided to focus on Armenia because they were the bigger threat to my country, so I invaded. It went rather well for me. I wanted to conquer the last country on the island of Madagascar. With that done, I wanted to conquer the countries on the coast, on the eastern coast of the continent. First I did Marahan, and it was pretty easy. I'm just gonna skip these because they're all small and I don't really care about them at this point. The main country I want to talk about is Maravi, because they were just a pain for a very long time. But with like 40,000 troops, I kind of just blitzed them. With all of that said, I wanted to thank you all for watching. I apologize about my pronunciation, as always, because I can't always get them right, but thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!